Alrighty, folks. Not the video you thought you were going to see, most likely. Unless you did know this, then screw you for not telling me. Okay, not really. Anyway, haven't had an update on in a while, but I've actually done a lot of work on the thing. As you can see, the engine's back into the car again. Last video, I had the engine sitting here, and I had shown you guys the bracing on there and the brackets for the steering rack. Well, I got pretty far with that. I made up some little mounts for the steering arms. I had 100%, well, 100% is relative. I had pretty much completely finished bolting these on. I had stuff welded onto the subframe there, some nuts welded onto the subframe there, and had the steering rack bolted in. And the arms were, I went and got some tie rod ends. Actually, accidentally ordered 4. They came in pairs, and I ordered a quantity of 2. So I have 4 of these. And I'm like, all right, I'm cruising right along, making a lot of progress. Had the thing all mounted in there. It was snug. It was good. It was solid. And then it occurred to me that I am a raving idiot, because you know the stock one is mounted on the back there against the firewall, and I just pushed it up about a foot and mounted it in front. However, in doing that, I flipped it to the other side of the pivot point of the wheel, because now it's a front steer instead of a rear steer. Long story short, I went to move the wheels left and noticed that that thing was rotating right. So had I gone through and finished all of that, I would have turned the steering wheel left and the wheels would have gone to the right, because it would have pushed the front instead of, or pushed the right instead of pulling the right. So that steering rack is rendered completely useless. If you need a steering rack, let me know. It's a little bit trimmed up in a few areas, but it'll still do the job for a normal 3000 GT Stealth. So, with that story out of the way, I had that Mustang manual rack laying around here, so I just went ahead and threw that thing together. I've got just single tabs here that aren't braced yet, but I've got those trick billet aluminum pieces holding that together, or I'm sorry, clamping to the rack itself. It's got a rubber isolator in there and clamps it really tight. It's a lot smaller, it's a lot lighter, it's got a lot better ground clearance. We'll see how I like it with the manual rack. I may move to the power rack later, but for now it's good. I went ahead and chopped up, that's the stock piece, the whatever. It's the stock steering shaft that came from the column or whatever. I just made that hole larger, cut that in half, hoping to just extend it to go to the stock steering rack, but obviously that wasn't the case. And took some 5/8 rod and went down there and made up a little stuff with an adapter for the Mustang rack. So we got the steering wheel, the steering column, to the steering rack. That has been complete. We have the, well, it needed its welds finished up. We have the steering rack mounted with the fancy billet aluminum. And then next we have the 2 steering arms. These are just kind of like placeholders. I was going to take my measurements with these, so they're just little 1/8 inch flimsy ones that I can bend and get into the right spot. And then I would just, measure exactly where they are, then I'll make it out of the 1/2 inch big bad boys. But those are in there. They're a little bit higher because this Mustang rack has Heims joints at the end. The stock one has the tie rod ends that stick up a little bit, so I could benefit from getting those a little bit lower for bump steer. I did all the measurements, I did all the drawings, I measured the arc. There's going to be a very, very slight variance, but there's not going to be a ton, so I should be okay with that. Sorry, I'm just babbling on. I've been working on a lot here, so I should have made more videos, but I did not. So, this is fun. I don't know why I enjoy this so much, but you can see all the way left and all the way right. So the steering wheel's connected to the actual wheels. Just one step closer. Ooh. So, yeah, so from this last video, I put the engine back in. Well, actually, from this last video, I finished the brackets for the steering rack. I got the nuts welded onto the subframe and I bolted those brackets down. The other steering rack was solid. I made the temporary steering arms for that steering rack. I bought tie rod ends for that steering rack. I cut that in half and had the other end, and I was just about to extend that, put that extension piece in between the two for the other steering rack. Then I realized I was an idiot, so then I yanked all that out, threw that stupid bastard over there, and chopped everything out that I could, and then put the engine back in so that I could, you know, make measurements against the engine itself for that, for the new steering rack, because I didn't want to hit the oil pan, and start it all over again. So it's been a little interesting journey. It's a whole lot of work for not a lot of progress, but at least the steering is in a mocked up complete phase now. So from here it's just finishing on up. Well, I am done bantering, I suppose. That would be my update for today. I'll probably not be working on it through the holidays, so you guys have a good Christmas. Peace out.